Okay, it is Wednesday, July the 24th, 2019, and welcome to week 4 of Introduction to Corrections. I'm Professor Richard Wright. I'm going to spend at least 35 minutes or maybe a little longer going over details of your assignments, discussing a few things concerning the topics that we have for this week. And right away, I do want to share something with you that I just received a message on, and you probably did too. Let me start sharing my screen. Concerning the issue of information technology, I wanted to share with you and let you guys know that as of today, Rasmussen, I knew about this Friday, but as of today, Rasmussen College now has an app in the App Store, which I highly recommend downloading, as well as in the Apple Store, or whatever it's called, iOS, and it contains a lot of information that can help you as far as resources that are available to help you with a whole myriad of things. I think if you probably got an email today to let you know about that. But in case you haven't had a chance to look at that, you'll want to take a look at it. I will. Let me see if I can. Let's see if I can share this one. Maybe I can share it with you. Give me a minute. I'm going into my Outlook. And let's see. Here we go. In Rasmussen Communications. Here's a video that shares an overview of the new app. And you can click on it yourself by going to this link right here, and it tells you about it. But here's a video that I want to share with you. You should be able to see this. It's a really short video, and I'm going to take off my headset so you can hear.
That is exciting.
Rasmussen College has the app that is available for you. I've already downloaded it on my phone, and I'm excited. I went through it, and I encourage every student to do the same. Because it'll be very beneficial. It'll help you to find a whole lot of resources and information that you might miss. So I wanted to make sure I shared that with you in case you didn't check your email, and you want to make sure that you do see that. You'll find out helpful resources as well as what you have here. You'll have it right there on your phone, so you can find things you need. I want to remind you that this is our week 4 lecture, and in our week 4 lecture, the next lecture will be week 6, and then actually after this one we'll have 3 more lectures. So after this I will have the archive of this. So now let's go right into well, first, before we do that, let's look at the course calendar. All right. Let's go to the course tools. Okay, and your course calendar. And there it is right there. So this is where we are here. And it tells you that your initial posts were due last night, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard. It tells you that your reply posts are due this Saturday, the 27th. And then this Sunday, there's a survey we asked you to do as well about these courses. Your written assignment and your course project, which I'm going to talk about in just a few minutes, because your course project, this is the second assignment for your course project. And just a few of you have submitted them and have done pretty well with it. So you want to make sure that you see this. So our next lecture after this will not be until August the 7th, which is week 6. And during that week, I will cover the assignment for the next project, which is week 7. So you want to take a look at that. So now let's go into the course calendar. So let's go back to the course announcement. So let's go to the course home. And here we are. Week 4. The topic is jails and prison. And I'm going to talk a little bit about jails and prison and what the difference is between the two. I sent you previously your PowerPoints for chapters 3 and 6 of the textbook. And then we're going to go over the topics jail versus prison. And then you're going to see an interview regarding the jail issues today. And then I won't take a look inside a maximum security prison. You'll have to do that on your own. And then your initial post, as I said, issues that face jails today. Your initial posts, as I said, were due last night, and your reply Saturday. And finally, your written assignments, your state prison classification, and the course project agency overview and background. This is the second project assignment. The very first one was naming your agency and provide the details with the contact person and why. And then your mid-quarter survey. All right. So now let's go in and let's look at Module 3. Let's close Course 2s down. And let's go right into Module 3. Okay. Let's look at the assignments. Wrong. Let's look at Module 4. This was from last week. Here we go. So let's come back to that. But I want to do the written assignment is your state prison classification. And what I want you to do is write details concerning the Department of Corrections or prison in your state and what kind of programs they have. Provide a brief overview of the topics. Make sure that you do it in APA format, and you need to make sure you use sources. And remember, I already told you, we've talked about this since the beginning of the course, about the importance of APA, and it is very, very, very important. And then your rubric, which I stressed to you, which tells you what to do, a minimum of 1 page. Now, you need to make sure you run your papers through Grammarly. You each should have a Grammarly account from the school. Make sure you use the one that you have from the school using your email address and setting up. And it tells you how to set that up, and then check the plagiarism box so that you can make sure that you're not getting hit with percentages above 25%, but the average is 10 to 15%, but I give you a little leeway in this class and in the criminal justice program. So the point of the matter is you can go a little beyond 1 page. I don't care how many pages you do, but a minimum of 1 page. Double space. Do not give me paper single space. I will take points off for that. And then make sure paragraphs. Paragraphs, as I've said before many times, should consist of an average of 5 to 6 sentences. Paragraphs your paper should not be one long paragraph. I've had students who submit to me a 1-page paper, and it's just one full paragraph, lengthy paragraph of a page. It's not going to do it. You got to break your paragraphs down with the introductory sentence, explanations, and then concluding thought, and then start another paragraph. And that should be an average of 5 to 6. And then, of course, your APA requirements here as well. All right? And then let's go back and let's talk about the course project. Now, I've already said this to you before, that there's only a few weeks in this. The next project that is due is week 7. You don't have one between, you don't have one week 5, you don't have one week 6. Is week 7, okay? And now it's time for you to conduct your agency overview, and it tells you what to do depending on the topic. Now, you should be able to give me 2 pages at least and break this information down. Don't give it to me the way it's with bullet points like this. I want it written in narrative form, okay? And then include, very important, the mission statement and the mission statement functions. And then discuss how the mission statement is reflected and how it is applied to the inmates or the individuals that are incarcerated there. So there's websites available usually for all the agencies to help you conduct your agency research. You don't necessarily have to utilize the information for your questions that are going to be due for the next assignment. And as I said, in week 6 lecture, I will break that down in details. So your mission statement, reiterate the ethical and professional responsibility needed to be successful in this field. So you should be writing on one of these 4 from beginning: jail, prison, probation, or parole. And probation or parole has almost the same type of information here. All right? Very, very, very important. Here is your rubric again, and it stresses to you the importance of the mission statement and details about things that you can find. You may not find everything that you need to find, but write out, you know, some information. Don't just copy and paste information either. And then 2 pages, double space, people, not single space, double space. and then citations in the body and references at the end. They should always have that along with a cover page, and it should be typed in font Roman 12. You should know that by now. Okay, and that's due on Sunday. All right, now that takes care of the assignments other than the discussion post, which issues facing jails. And you already have ideas about that as well. And you know the content, the kind of details I'm looking for. All right, so now let's go right to talking about the topic of jails and prisons as we wrap up. So what is the difference between jail and prison? Well, it's a very, sometimes they're used interchangeably, but you should be aware that jails are generally for individuals who are not there for long periods of time. I think the rule of thumb is that if you commit a crime which sends you to jail for less than a year, then you will probably be in a jail. And you may be held there if you can't post bond. Unless you're able to post bond, then you will remain there. But it's usually for misdemeanors where the commitment is 1 year or less. Okay, now again, you can still be in jail awaiting trial, but I'm saying that jail is primarily intended for short periods because it's believed that most people will be bailed out unless it's an offense that reasonable bail is not presented or provided because of the offense that's involved. And severe felonies may require millions of dollars in bail, which basically equal in most cases, with most people, as no bail, and you're not able to get out, and you're not released on bail. If it's a misdemeanor or if it's a nonviolent offense, there's a lot of time what we call an I-bond. That's what we call it here in our jurisdiction. But it's a ROR, which means released on recognizance. In other words, it's believed that those individuals will come back to court and that their offenses have not been violent and they're not flight risk as a result of that. And they will be given that. And jails are usually right near the courthouse. I mean, the main courthouse, for example, at our Cook County Jail in Chicago, at the main court building, which is the Layton Court building at 26 in California, the jail is right behind there, Cook County Jail. Here in Will County, where I am, the same thing. The Will County Jail is right behind the main courthouse. And so it's usually in an urban area. It's not usually away. And individuals there, while they're incarcerated there, if they're going to be there for any period of time, they're offered opportunities for health care and other things. There are some concerns, though, as you discovered from your discussion post, that one of the issues is mental health. Unfortunately, because of budgetary issues, there are mental health divisions, but unfortunately there are too many people who are placed in the general population when they really have mental health problems. And so because of those budgetary issues, then they're not going to get the help they do. Now, individuals who are females are in a different facility. They don't put the males and the females, at least in our jurisdiction, and no jurisdictions I know of do they put them together. But be aware of the fact that jails are subject to many of the problems that most jurisdictions are faced with, and that's budgetary restraints. And so there are all kinds of problems there. And so there's a time when the agencies, the jails, have to privatize their services, such as the medical and mental health care, the food service programs, and even sometimes the building of the jails themselves. Okay, and there are individuals in the smaller facilities, not like Will County or Cook County, who don't have access to even a law library or some of the things that are necessary to provide something for the individuals to do while they're incarcerated, such as being treated for drugs or alcohol, dealing with work releases, working with organizations like Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous. And then there are even opportunities offered for individuals to receive their GED, General Education Diploma, if they have not had a high school diploma. And that's a good opportunity because oftentimes it's clear that individuals who are educated are less likely to become recidivists. I didn't say they would not, I say they are less likely to become recidivists. And I like to use the phrase over and over, and you've heard me say this before if you've been in my classes: it is cheaper to educate and to incarcerate. But there's overcrowding, there's violence, and then I already talked about the mental health placement that takes place in jails. And so, again, jails are short-term. Prisons, on the other hand, are generally held in rural areas. They're not generally in the cities. Some are, but most are not. And federal and state prisons operate and work together. And so if you are going to be charged with probably a felony, which is a crime that is for sentencing of over a year, or at least a year and a day, then you would qualify for prison. Now, you can be in jail awaiting trial, but then you serve your actual time that you, if you found guilty, in a prison if you end up with a violent offense there. So, and so in many states, the individuals are sentenced pretty fast after they're found guilty. Pretty fast. There are various levels of prison, as the Bureau of Prisons refers to, and based on the kind of crime that is involved, the kind of individual that is there, such as we start with the minimum security prison, which has like dorm living and is kind of relaxed security, and a lot of times there are people who are able to leave and go outside, go to school, and go to work. The medium security is often a double bunked, double facing with guard towers, and that's the one that you generally see, and you probably are most familiar with, and has controlled, excuse me, controlled access and gates and things of that nature. And then there's the maximum security. These are hardcore, surrounded by stone walls, has a cell observation, and then usually the toilets are in the same area, double fences. You'll see those individuals behind those big, huge walls. And then you get to the supermax. The supermax is where individuals are kept locked up in their own facility room for only 1 hour a day are they out. So generally it's a 23-hour lockdown, as it says here. And so there are various prisons, and the one who's responsible for the prison is the warden, and is the one who operates with a staff of what they call associate wardens, and they establish procedures for maintaining order in the facility. And so I want to share with you this video as we conclude, and this video will give you some information about some of the things. Now, you're going to listen very carefully, and you're going to hear things like you get a high school diploma, you can start, but you'll also hear that now most jails are requiring individuals to at least get a
phones off. And I'm going to play this.
Tell me about your background and your position here in Sherburne County.
Sure. Well, I worked at the Sherburne Jail for the past 18 years. Over the past 18 years, I've held the capacity of a corrections officer, of a jail sergeant, of a jail captain, and currently I'm the assistant jail administrator.
Okay. And your background?
Before that, I worked for Cub Foods. I was assistant produce manager. I was going to St. Cloud State University when I was the assistant produce manager. And then I had an opportunity to apply for Sherburne County, which I did, and I was accepted. Before that, I was in the Marine Corps Reserve. I'm a veteran for the first Gulf War, which I learned a lot of things. It was an experience that I'll never forget, and gained a lot of experience out of that. Before that, I was at St. Cloud State University. So I went from St. Cloud State University, I joined the Marine Corps Reserve. I didn't graduate at that point, and ended up getting activated for the Gulf War. And when the Gulf War was done, came back and went back to school and worked at Cub Foods.
Okay. Can you tell us about the setup of your jail and the types of inmates you serve?
Yes, our jail is actually, it's kind of a unique jail. We hold federal inmates, so we have a contract with the U.S. Marshal Service and Immigration to hold federal inmates. Most of the inmates that we have are federal inmates. On any given day, we have about 80 to 100 county inmates. The rest of our inmate population are federal. We have pushed over 600 inmates. A couple years ago, we were pushing that every day. Recently, it's dropped down to about 400 any given day. Inside the jail, its design is unique as well. There's 3 different kind of styles of the layout of the facility. We have linear style, we have modular remote, and we have direct supervision.
What do those things mean?
The linear style jail is basically a day room that has cells attached to the day room, and there's not a corrections officer that's in the unit that's watching the unit all the time. The corrections officers make rounds, so they have to make rounds every 15 to 30 minutes, going through and just making sure that things are okay. It's a difficult area to control because you're not always observant on what's going on in there, so it makes it more difficult. What we've done with that area is made it into a special management area. So this is where we have our lockdown inmates. So if they go into disciplinary sanctions, they're locked down 23 hours a day, and they have 1 hour out where they can go into the day room. And once they have that hour out, they can use the phone, they can shower, read the paper. So that's basically what they're able to do during that hour. We only have or allow 1 person out at a time. So there's no contact between the inmates back there in our disciplinary stay. So, but when I first started, that was our jail. It was a linear style jail. And we would end up going to situations. We were usually putting situations out all the time, putting fires out, because you didn't know what was going on all the time. The modular remote is it's also in our special management area. but it's an area where we keep like vulnerable adults, people that are classified at a lower level, people that have crimes that we want to pull away from the regular inmate population, such as sex crimes. Those crimes typically aren't very well thought of by the general population, and those people can be subject to manipulation, subject to some extortion, and they're subject to being able to be assaulted in the facility. So we want to pull those people out, keep them safe, and we have a workstation that's in a hallway that has glass that overlooks that area, and that's the Padre Mall. It's a little bit better than the linear supervision for watching the inmates because you've got sight of line, so you're able to see the inmates, throughout the day, but you don't really hear what's going on in there. But it works well for what we have. And then we have direct supervision. Direct supervision is our general population, and in that area we have corrections officers in with the inmates throughout the entire day. And that works real well because not only do you see the inmates all the time, but you're walking, you're talking, and you get a lot of information. You get to hear what's going on inside the unit. And you'll hear this from corrections officers that have been around who feel what's going on in the unit. So you get to know and feel the vibe that's going on inside that housing.
Okay. You touched on this, but could you talk more about administrative issues in the jail?
Sure. Our administrative duties are to make sure that the facility is being run according to state law, constitutional law, following our policies and procedures. So we, in administration, we write the policy and procedures for the staff to follow, and we make sure that the staff are following them. We take care of the hiring, the staff discipline. We make sure that all the needs of the facility are met. We have female inmates in custody. We have federal inmates in custody. We have immigration inmates in custody. And we have our county inmates in custody. And we just make sure that the facility is being run in the right direction.
Okay. What are some issues facing jails today?
One of the biggest issues that we have, and it's different from when I first started 18 years ago, is mental illness in corrections. The mental illness facilities that we had back, when I first started 18 years ago have been shut down, and there's not a lot of options to be able to send people who are in need of controlling their mental illness through medication and doctors. They're not around anymore, so they are being kept in the jails. We have probably 1/3 of our population on psychotropic medication. So that's probably one of the biggest issues that we face. That is a change from when I first started.
You mentioned your background. Can you tell us what are the minimum qualifications to be a correctional officer?
Sure. The minimum qualifications is a valid driver's license. You have to be a high school graduate, and that's your basic minimum qualifications. Now, we look, when we go through the interview process, and we're looking for people that are well-rounded, people that are great communicators, and we look for people that have had 2-year degrees, 4-year degrees. So that is more appealing when you're going through the interview process, and you're more likely to get a job with a 2-year or 4-year degree.
Okay. Do you have any advice for today's students?
One of the things that we push in corrections is firm, fair, and consistent. So if you get into this business, it's very important for you to be firm on the rules, consistent with the rules, and you have to be fair with the rules. You can't be allowing one individual to do something that you're not allowing another individual to do. Going through the interview process, it's very important to do a little research on what you're getting into. So when you're going through the interview process, you're able to intelligently answer the questions that are being asked. Communication is probably the biggest thing that we look for, a good communicator. someone that isn't afraid of being able to talk to people and give them bad information on occasion, and but being able to deliver that information in a way that isn't going to jeopardize any kind of security issues in the facility.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, you can see.
One of the things that is very, 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 very important in the scenario here is the importance of, number one, education. You heard him talk about the fact that with prison, with jail rather, you have a better opportunity with an associate's or a bachelor's degree of getting a job. Unfortunately, people are still trying to do it without that. And the reason for that is because they're moving towards a more professional individual that they are looking to hire. And that's really the hint that he's given to you, is that they want to make sure that they have individuals who are at a more of a professional level rather than, you know, not being as professional. And that's what they're trying to do. And then the other thing that you need to be aware of is, you notice that one of the things that you stay away from is doing favors. Remember, the firm, fair, and consistent, that's a common thing that you hear not only in jail, but you hear that for prisons as well, so that when you establish who you are with the inmates, that you will be consistent with that. And otherwise, there will be individuals who will be trying to manipulate you, and it would end up in a bad result for you and possibly even for the facility itself. And so those are just some of the things that are involved. I want to remind you again, as I go back to sharing, taking you back to this. Oh, I don't want to go back to that one. I want to go back to this. That's what I wanted to go back to. And I want to take you back to understanding the importance of getting your role and understanding what jail is all about and how jail is different from prison. You should be aware of that as you are preparing your assignment for your course project. There is a difference between the two, and we have covered all of these objectives in our discussion today, except we didn't mention much about privatization. Be aware, though, that what has happened is that, as I already said, they're privatizing services, but there even has been a movement toward privatizing jails themselves. But the problem has been is that, like I said, the funding that's involved there as well. And many individuals, such as myself, are against privatizing jails, because what happens is the entity, whether it's the state or rather it's the county or the municipality, enter into an agreement with a private agency that they will provide a certain number of individuals to be able to house there. And what that means is that increased arrests. And then that's not a good thing at all, because only people who should be arrested are people who are committing crimes or suspected in terms of committing crimes. So if you do studies, you'll see that privatization is under attack, and we really don't care for it very much. And so that's it. I did talk about. Let's go just for a moment before we conclude to give you your assignments for next week. So next week's assignment, week 5, you know the rubric is here, dealing with the 8th Amendment and cruel and unusual punishment. And make sure that when you cite cases in a 1 to 2 page paper, what constitutes cruel and unusual punishment, and include at least 2 cases. Now, when you cite your cases, I remind you, cite the full case. Don't just cite one of those short sources. You could do some research. You could go to Google and put U.S. versus whomever, and it'll tell you the volume number. It'll tell you the kind of case it is, whether it's U.S. for United States Supreme Court. It'll tell you then the page number it starts, and then in parentheses you put the year, and that's how you cite the case. So you want to make sure you do that. Again, the important thing is to view the rubric. Again, this is due a week. This is due a week from Sunday now. We're talking about here, and it's a 1 to 2 page paper. All right. Any questions? Reach out to me about that as well. And then I think you'll discover that the only other thing that you have is your discussion post and then your quiz. I've already said to students, try to take your quiz after you've gone through all the information. I will present to you next week, early in the week, week 5's PowerPoints, so that you'll have a chance to study. And you want to prepare for the exam. So that's one of the 5 exams that you will be taking in this course. And those are the assignments for week 5. And so with that, I'm going to terminate this session. I will be seeing you 2 weeks from today with our very next lecture. At that time, we'll be in week 6. And as I said earlier, in week 6, I will also discuss the requirements, to remind you about the requirements for your week 7 course project, which is part 3. Okay, so I'm going to say good night to each of you.